I know you're looking for a definitive answer here, Jeffrey, but there isn't one. It is about noticing that, okay, I'm feeling like I've lost control of being able to get that joy back in my life. I'm feeling stuck. I can't quite get over this hump. And if that continues to happen and you're trying different things, or maybe you've stopped trying to get yourself out of that. And look, for some people, it might be a matter of weeks. For others, it could take months for that to happen.
Hi everyone, Jeffrey Wang here, and you're listening to the PDF podcast. The Professional Development Forum, or PDF for short, was established to help diverse young professionals find fulfilment in the modern Australian workplace. In this episode, we speak with Kimberley Lee. As a trained counsellor, Kimberley helps people to have more honest conversations, both with themselves and those around them. She works with Rough Patch, a social enterprise that aims to make counselling affordable for everyone. As a certified meditation teacher, she helps people release stress and fatigue from their body, mind, and soul. As a freelance communications consultant with a background in PR and social media, she helps people with storytelling, copywriting, stakeholder engagement, brand and reputation management. So good to have you with us today, Kimberley.
Thanks, Jeffrey. So pleased to be here with you.
So in these, I suppose, unprecedented times, I'm trying to avoid using that word. I realize it is a bit of a rough patch for a lot of our friends. No doubt, you would have a bit of experience in that. What are you seeing that's happening with people as, people struggle with the lockdown, the economic downturn, and, just the doom and gloom that we're hearing in general?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that people are reacting and responding to what's happening at the moment. And I think that's also changed and shifting from, when we first went into lockdown to now. But there are a range of ways that people are reacting, and they can be anything from throwing themselves into work or new projects or learning new things, to the other end of the spectrum, which is more, I just want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, or I just want to sleep. And all these reactions and everything in between is really our fight, flight, freeze, faint response coming into play when we feel that our safety is threatened. And when I say safety, that would be physiological and psychological safety. So depending on how the pandemic has impacted you, you may not have a safe place, or you may not have certainty in terms of having a roof over your head. So, being able to feel safe and secure in that sense. Or perhaps you have lost your job or feel like there is uncertainty with employment, which also leads to people being a little nervous about, well, how am I going to be able to pay my bills? How am I going to be able to eat? That is grief for the things, the loss of what we used to have in life as we used to know it, loss of things that we may no longer have, such as international travel, or at least for a little while anyway, or other future plans. And again, though that grief response can come out as things like, feeling intense sadness or frustration or anger or feeling despondent. So I think, we're all feeling, well, I'm certainly feeling a lot of those things and have felt a lot of those things over the last, 6 months, getting on to 6 to 8 months now. As I'm also navigating the same things as everybody else. So I think, if you're noticing a change in your, in how you're feeling and how you're responding to things, then it's good to take a pause and notice if, perhaps that you are slipping a little bit into the more depressed state.
Yep. Which is kind of my, what I'm thinking about is that a lot of people have every now and then, you would have a down day, you have a sad day every now and then, life happens and certain things, might knock us back now and then. But at what point, should is it too much? At what point does it become a problem? At what point do we need to go and seek help?
So I think, that's different for everyone, but I think if you're getting to a point where you feel like you've lost all motivation or interest in things that you would normally be interested in or things that would normally excite you, and you're finding it really hard to get that motivation back, then that would be a point that I would say it's time to seek help. If you're engaging in activities or behaviors to avoid feeling, such as, maybe drinking a little more than you would normally, or, alcohol or any other drugs, or throwing yourself into exercise, that can also be an addiction.
Too much exercise?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and too much of anything is not good. And, I guess too much exercise is an addiction that we don't often hear about because people think, oh, exercise is healthy. And I would suggest that the majority of us don't have that challenge of exercising too much. But it can be another way to, I guess, become busier and busier and more focused on something which allows you to avoid facing reality or facing how you really feel about something. So any of these kinds of avoidant behaviors or behaviors that are not your natural normal state of play. I think if you get to a point where you're unable to pull yourself back to a more reasonably balanced lifestyle or even emotions. I mean, we all have depressed moods, but it's when you're in that sustained suppressed mood that it becomes a depression. And you can't get yourself out and you can't get yourself back to feeling like you. I think, there are times when you might have that kind of out of body, I just don't feel like myself feeling. If that is going on and on and on and you can't get back to feeling like yourself, then that's a great time to reach out and get help.
But how long does that have to go on for before it becomes problematic?
There is no, I know you're looking for a definitive answer here, Jeffrey, but there isn't one. It is about noticing that, okay, I'm feeling like I've lost control of being able to get that joy back in my life. I'm feeling stuck. I can't quite get over this hump. And if that continues to happen and you're trying different things, or maybe you've stopped trying to get yourself out of that. And look, for some people, it might be a matter of weeks. For others, it could take months for that to happen. So it's really about understanding what you're like when you're in a good place, and then taking time to notice when you're not in that good place and you are feeling that stuckness. And if you're feeling that stuckness, that's time. But there is no definitive, and it's not the same for everyone. So I know that isn't probably what you're looking for in an answer necessarily, but it's definitely around, I think, the feeling of stuckness that people will notice. Yeah.
When it spirals out of control. Okay, so what kind of help are out there? What kind of different ways can you get help?
So there's so much content for people to kind of, work through the self-help books and courses and seminars and TED Talks and anything that fosters some self-reflection, and I think perhaps some critical thinking, being curious, learning and expanding your awareness about certain things through learning. So self-help would be one thing. Talking to friends and family is a huge thing. So staying connected with loved ones, either virtually or in person if you can. Talking things through with someone you trust and someone you know will give you an honest response. Sometimes that can really help, particularly when you might need to hear some things that you might not want to hear. But if you've got someone in your life who can say it as it is, and sometimes that can be enough to kind of motivate you or push you forward or shift you out of the stuckness. And thirdly, professional help. So perhaps it's seeking help from a counsellor or a psychotherapist. Or perhaps it's something where you need to see a psychologist because there might be an underlying disorder or some kind of a diagnosis. So psychologists work to the medical model of the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that doctors, the medical fields, also work with. Perhaps it's accessing the Employment Access Program, EAP, through your workplace, particularly if it's a work related issue. But I think those are three good things that you could potentially try.
Okay, so I understand, you need to give yourself self-help. I understand that at times you seek help from your families and friends, but at what stage do you need to engage professional help, and why would you engage professional help? Like, how do you know that you need professional help, and how does that professional help differ from the friends and family that could help you?
Okay. So as a therapist, I would say it's any time is a good time to seek professional help. I would even suggest that seeking professional help when things are good is a good time to see someone, because you can kind of set that baseline and start to build rapport with a therapist or a counsellor, so that over time, when you do come across challenges, it can be a lot easier to work through it when you've come from a good place. However, most people will access that kind of help when things get too much to bear, and it's perhaps too much to work through with friends and family, or you've tried a lot of things and nothing else seems to be working. So for a lot of people, it is that last resort of, I've tried everything else. It's time to seek help from a professional, and that may be because the issues you're having are with the people who you would normally speak to about the challenges in your life, or it might be that your loved ones are going through enough and you feel like, well, I don't want to also pass my load of worries and heaviness onto them as well. So I think any time is a good time to speak to a professional, but I think if you're feeling like you've tried all the other things and nothing else seems to be helping you get through that stuckness, then seeking a therapist or a counsellor or a psychologist is a great idea. I will say, though, that it is, for want of a better analogy, it's a little like dating. You may need to see a couple of different professionals before you find someone who you feel comfortable with, where it's a good fit. And you're not really going to know until you've met with them. So if you've had an experience before with a professional and perhaps that first session you want a great fit with them, don't let that put you off. Keep looking. And I guess understand what you might be looking for in a professional, in a practitioner, but also understanding what therapy is all about. And that there are questions that you can ask when you're making your inquiry with your chosen professional as well.
Wow. And so can you tell me a bit more about Rough Patch and your work that you've done with them?
Sure. So Rough Patch is a new social enterprise, and we offer affordable counselling. So people can get up to 15 sessions at a reduced fee. Normally, a full fee counselling or therapy session could be $150 or more. Psychology can be $250, and psychiatry, which is a medical field, is a lot more than that. So we're offering $90 sessions, but if that's not manageable for you, we're willing to discuss alternative options to make sure that people can access the help that they need. I will say that, people often come to therapy or counselling because, we don't know the people that you're talking about. We're not judging you. We're not making any assumptions. The therapeutic relationship is based purely on the work that happens in the therapy room. So there's no expectation on you to perform or to, achieve anything. And you can have totally honest conversations with your practitioner. We're all, probably been through stuff or heard a lot of things, or being able to work with people with a lot of things. So unlike talking to friends and family who may not fully understand what you're going through, we're trained to be able to work with you with whatever you bring to us. So I would really encourage people who perhaps reach that point of stuckness and are wondering about what other help there is, to perhaps try counselling or therapy.
Well, thanks for that. I think this is very useful information for, I know, a lot of us who may feel like that, especially in these very difficult and uncertain times. There's certainly a lot of anxiety. There's certainly a lot of disappointment and sometimes sadness going around. So hopefully, if you do need help, please reach out. Now, how can people find you, Kim?
Sure, they can either come to my website, kimberleylee.com.au, and it's Kimberley with an L-E-Y, or roughpatchcounselling.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your advice today, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Take care.
You too.